I'm going to bring to the stage right now the man who's going to tell you all about this movie, AFS Artistic Director Richard Linklater. All right, and Lars didn't mention, but we got the good 35mm print of this from the studio. It was lost. Lars wouldn't accept no for an answer. They fucking found it. So we're here, 35mm. Thank you. That's what this is all about. This is such a fun series for me, and it's very selfish, I will admit it. These are films I've just wanted to see all these years. And thinking of the 80s, this part of the 80s, it was a toss-up. It's like Louis Malle, he was in his early American period. He had done Pretty Baby, Atlantic City, My Dinner with Andre. Kind of thought about My Dinner with Andre, but I figured more people in a way maybe know that film, or it's a little more of a cult item. This film, Atlantic City, for all its acclaim at the time, I feel like it's lesser known. How many of you are seeing it for the first time? This amazes me. And I'm so glad we're showing it for that reason. That's why we're showing it. Because it's just a beautiful film. I don't know any other way to say it. Burt Lancaster is amazing. Susan Sarandon. This is kind of the first Susan Sarandon. She had been in movies, of course. Rocky Horror Picture Show, Joe. She was having a career. She was still pretty young. But this is the one when people went, oh, who's that? And her career, from then on, she's been what we know of her. But to me, at that time, it was Burt Lancaster. I'd seen him in a bunch of movies over the years. We kind of know our iconic Burt Lancaster. But here, he's an older guy. He's probably, pushing 70. It's like, what an amazing older actor. Burt Lancaster, we all know, he was like the jock. I grew up watching him on, Jim Thorpe, All-American. I mean, Burt Lancaster, he's a big guy. He's an athlete. He was an acrobat. He had this power to him. And to see him play this character is so brilliant. Lou, he's a petty, he's like a numbers runner in Atlantic City. This movie's all about, I guess it's about decay and renewal. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think the central metaphor of the movie is Atlantic City's this town that's trying to renew itself. It's recently got legalized gambling, but it's kind of a rat hole filled with, people from, all over. And Lou is one of these guys. And I remember at the time reading a review, and I'll never forget it. It says, it's not so much a story of a has-been, but of a never was. And that's kind of, he imagines himself some kind of tough guy who was in the jail with Bugsy Siegel, but he's really not. He's kind of, he was a gopher for the mob. He's kind of lived this life of, pretty nondescript, no highlights. He's kind of creating a myth about himself, perhaps. But then circumstances, he meets this young woman, or he sees her. The apartment complex they live in is kind of being condemned, of course, and series of events, and he actually has a moment, that in a way it's really wonderful, and it's wonderful the way Lancaster plays it. So I don't want to give anything away too much there, but it's just one of those great old man performances. And Louis Malle, he's just such a great director. I mean, he's one of the greats. I don't think. He kind of falls between, sort of like this movie in a way. It falls between genres in a way. I don't know what genre this is. Maybe we'll talk about it after. I don't know. It's got a little bit enough of a drug deal going on and a little bit of violence. But it's not a thriller. It's a character piece completely. So it doesn't, it's just pure character work. Kind of like all his films. He's the age of all the new wave directors, but he really wasn't one of them. He didn't have anything to do with Cahiers du Cinema. I think they were friendly, but he was just never officially a new wave director. He started in documentaries. He co-directed with Jacques Cousteau, Underwater and stuff. He's just a filmmaker, and I would put him up with Werner Herzog as one of the great narrative storytellers who also had a really incredible documentary career. Louis Malle was making documentaries all along, and those have become available, by the way, if you get your Criterion on, a lot of those are available, and they're amazing. To this day, one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in a movie theater. He did this show in the late 60s called Phantom India. He just went to India and shot for months and months. I've been a year, I don't know, but it was a 7-part series, 1 hour each. So it was a 7-hour movie. This is at the River Oaks in Houston. We started at 5 in the afternoon. We all walked out of there like 1:30 in the morning. But it was fucking incredible. Just the way that movie flows. You get to know these people in India and you care about them. And it was just amazing. I mean, that alone, if anyone else had made just that film, we would be going like, have you ever seen Phantom? If he had just made that and died. But, you know, he had this another career. You know, he made all these other great movies. And, you know, he died, you know, I think he was about 65. I feel cheated. You know, I think he would have been a great old man director. I mean, I wish he was still making films now, you know. But Vanya on 42nd Street, someone called the greatest Chekhov adaptation. And if you know that film, you know, he's like an American indie director, really. You know, this old French guy, but, you know, just people sitting in a theater doing Chekhov. It's pretty amazing. He experimented, and he just did all kinds of stuff. So many gems here tonight. Louis Malle, the great Burt Lancaster, Susan Sarandon, just all kinds of good stuff. But the tone of this is beautiful, and we are so privileged to be watching a 35mm print of it tonight. So, all right, see you after. What actor has more like sheer dignity? Like anybody else plays that part, he's a perv who's looking through the window. Right, you know, who can pull that off? I mean, Burt Lancaster is. I mean, who in the history of cinema? Who are we talking about? Gregory Peck, Sidney Poitier. I mean, like who has dignity like that? You know, Burt Lancaster, the way he carried himself. Yeah, just this bigger than life.
It's so true, and for audiences that watched this, you know, 32 years ago, not only is it just what you see there, it's this whole lifetime probably accrued of having watched his movies and knowing.
You bring so much into it.
There's a guy that you just love so much.
Yeah, so many great performances over all the decades before that.
But I'm going to guess that there are a lot of people here who probably just maybe haven't seen that many Burt Lancaster movies, and yet still, you still get it. You know,
you get it. It comes through that. You know, he was actually here. Is Charles Ramirez-Berg here tonight? He introduced. This is a crazy story. Must have been like 86, 87. Burt Lancaster comes to Austin, Texas, shows The Leopard, there's a new print of Visconti's The Leopard from, 63 or so. Lancaster's the lead. And there's a screening at Hogg Auditorium on the UT campus. The Leopard, Charles Ramirez-Berg, I think he was just a graduate, in the school. He talks about, he grew up in El Paso, and for some reason, when he was a teenager, he goes to see this film called The Leopard in El Paso, Texas, and how it just changed his life. And then out walks Burt Lancaster. And I remember him on stage, we were just going, oh my God. And he just stood there, and it was all Burt Lancaster. We were just like, oh my God, that's fucking Burt Lancaster. I mean, I was never so like, just the way he stood there. It was one of the coolest Q&As ever. Because someone asked like a dumb question or something, he would be, oh, that's just such a dumb question. I can't even answer it. So I've also wanted to do that myself at a Q&A. But the way he did it was such, someone asked about a directory work. He was a very strange man, but God, he was just.
And Burt Lancaster also, he was one of those sort of special guys who chose his parts. And the way he chose his parts,
such an artist. Well, he had a famous company, at Hecht, Hill, Lancaster. Yeah. They produced a lot of great movies in the 50s into the 60s. Sweet Soul Success, Marty, they had a lot of success. So he was a smart industry guy. He grew up in New York, but he really was a consummate insider, but a real artist.
When you think of his movies, you might think of some of the early stuff, but then generally you start thinking about all the challenging things from Sweet Smell of Success to The Swimmer and all that kind of stuff that he did. It's pretty amazing.
Train. He had a good 60s. I mean, he had a good every decade. And that was what was so cool to see him. He had a good 80s. I mean, he's in Field of Dreams and a good double feature is go home and rent, download, however you get it, Local Hero. That was another title we were trying to get. There's not a print available, but that's a Bill Forsyth, the great Scottish director. And he did that like a year or two after this. That was 82, 83. And it's a smaller part for him, but he's very memorable in it. And you're going like, God, Burt Lancaster is just like the best older man actor you can imagine. It was great to see him have a good last, final.
And to play a duet, as it were, with somebody as just incredible and as talented as Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, that's such an interesting. I love that relationship. It's delicate.
Mm-hmm.
It's delicate. I think they pull it off.
It's like a virtuoso sort of duet that they do.
Yeah, it's just so tastefully done. It could have gone in so many different directions.
Yeah,
that scene when he's in the apartment, they're both in shadows, and it's just so well done. Wait, come on, I don't know. It's just beautifully done.
That's a scene that just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
that's such a great scene.
The way he just recounts everything, and then you wash your hands, and then you do the soap, and then you cut the lemons. It's just like, what is going on here? That's like
And just imagine any other actor doing that scene.
Yeah, no, it's so creepy. Anybody else, practically. Anybody else. But anyway, there's so many great... How about that scene with Robert Goulet at the Frank Sinatra reel? That is like hilarious. I mean, it's so... How'd they get him to do it? Did Frank Sinatra himself call and ask a favor? I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, that's one of those
moments.
It's wonderful,
though.
Tightrope moments that you're like, who are you going to try to pull that off? Everybody must have been like, this is a little over the top, Louis, where Robert Goulet comes over and is singing the song by the
she's trying to tell the parents he's dead, and there he is serenading, but they got that check for $250,000. I guess it's those dancers, but yet he pulls it off. That could have been so cheesy, and yet it kind of fit. It fit tonally in some strange way with the whole piece.
It's really a movie where all of the characters that we like get what they want. And kind of the audience, in a way, kind of gets what it wants to, I
know we do. And yet they're also, there's a certain sadness, or I hope I'm not just, they're all kind of delusional, The towel guy, well, when things get going better, I'm going to pay you back. Dude, I don't know if things are going to get a lot better.
Yeah. Of course they're not.
Yeah, I don't, there's a lot of that in the movie.
And the scene...
A Betty Grable lookalike content. Everybody's like not who they wish they were or something.
There's a great scene...
her striving for what she wants to be,
Yeah, you don't know where that's going to go.
You don't know how far is she going to get in that car? I don't know. It'll probably pull her over at the next stop. Got the license plate. Who the hell knows? But it's a wonderful ending, though.
At the very end, when the old lady brings over the bag of Coke, and the guy just goes, sure, whatever. Yeah. It's like such a plot convenience that we're just like, sure. It's like, what it's like is like when Buster Keaton in The General, when he goes through all that stuff and ends up kind of accidentally rescuing the girl, and she goes, you came all this way to rescue me, and he just goes, screw it, I didn't actually, but and the audience is just like, go take the credit, it's fine.
Grab that ending when you get it.
You've never directed Susan Sarandon?
No.
Has anybody here in the audience ever directed Susan Sarandon? Anybody?
Oh,
there he is. Mike Tully, director of King Kong Summer, is here. So Mike,
he said Louis Malle, Mike Tully.
It was kind of right up there. You're grouped right with Louis Malle. What was? May I ask you, Mike? What was she like?
She was great. She didn't make me feel stupid. She was great. I think she told some funny stories about there was a lot of partying on the set of this. I'll leave it at that. But she was great. She showed up, she was professional, and she caught the vibe of what we were doing, and she didn't in any way throw her Oscars or her weight around, which I was a little bit nervous of, but she was cool. She's cool.
Oscars, did she?
She didn't bring her Oscars, no.
Okay.
She brought her little...
She brought her little puppy, but that's all.
So you're saying it was real Coke in the movie?
There was probably real Coke on set on the movie.
We all miss it. Apparently there was...
let's talk to the audience a little bit. I wonder if anybody has anything they'd like to say, questions, comments. Right back here, yeah.
The dumb question of the evening. What's Barney up to?
He's
I wonder if we have
He's
any
working. He's doing well.
Okay, all right, listen, no more stuff like that. We got any other
He's got a
questions? That's a dumb
That
question.
is such a question I can't
Right over here,
answer.
yes.
Well, two things. One is just, I think
a good double feature with this, with the Atlantic City connection, is The King of Marvin Gardens, which is almost kind of a precursor to this in a way. And then the other thing that I'm curious about the origin of this film, because it's Atlantic City, it's distributed by Paramount, but then at the end it's a France-Canada
French-Canadian co-production.
which I was wondering about because I was seeing all these Canadian actors, like the guy who fires her, the guy's head explodes and scans him, right? And the tough, heavy is the hockey player in Strange Brew. So I'm curious if you have any insights.
I mean, Kate Reid, she's British. Wally Shawn. It's just it's a mix. I think back then. Does anyone?
Yeah, I actually do a little bit because I'd read an interview with, I think it's John Garr, who's the screenwriter, and he had said this is actually one of the first films that took the incentive of Canada saying we'll put up half the money for the movie, but you have to shoot. I forgot, like 80% of it in Canada. So like all the interiors are shot in Canada, and you had to use like so many amount of Canadian crew and Canadian actors.
Those formula things where Canada wanted to be a player in the international film world, so they do those crazy incentives. And I guess Louis Malle, being French, but he was working in America. So I don't know, you take it where you can get it if Canada's going to give you some cash.
They probably shot it in Toronto, I would guess. So there's not even like
it's not the first film that did that. Where you just you shoot the interiors and you'd never know. Yeah, right over here.
You know if Louis Malle was already working with Wallace Shawn?
It's interesting because I think they probably knew each other from New York theater world. John Garr, Louis Malle, Wally Shawn. Because My Dinner with Andre is up next, right? I mean, it's the next year. So they might even already had that in the works. It's fun to see a young Wally Shawn, though. He's the waiter. That's the youngest, maybe. We see him on film. I don't know if he's in much before. But,
You could see a picture of him like 12 years old, bald.
But they must have known each other from New York.
Who do we got here? We got another contribution from the audience. Right in the back,
I just wondering, just your opinion, one reason why maybe this film, and to some degree, why Louis Malle maybe isn't as known, and isn't like as, I shouldn't say as put into that pantheon that critics put him in, is one of the good things about him, that he doesn't actually there isn't that Louis Malle kind of film. Like, there is a certain kind of Coppola film or Scorsese film, but this is different from like Dinner with Andre or Elevator to the Gallows or Les Enfants, that there's not that specific thing you can say this is a Louis Malle film.
Look at really different stages of the career, I mean, the guy made 3 really wonderful films before he was even 30, those Elevator to the Gallows and the kept doing it, 60s, 70s, I mean, a lot of them aren't even available, I don't think. Is Lacombe Lucien available? Criterion has that now. But a lot of them have been slow to come out, but I mean, great career. Very, I don't know, what's the word? Tasteful, class.
It's really marked by excellence.
Dignity, just kind of overall, humanity and excellence. I mean, I don't know how to put it. Just his documentaries, everything he does is kind of wonderful. I wonder, though, his next 2 films, I guess in the 80s, he stayed in America. He did a film that didn't come off, that not many people have seen, called Crackers. Sean Penn, Wally Shawn, it's Safe Crackers. And that was the only film I remember watching Louis Malle go. It's kind of a screwball comedy. And that one I saw it on cable once, years later, and thought, that doesn't quite work. But and then he did another one, Alamo Bay, shot here in Galveston, in Texas. But those 2, I think people they weren't that well acclaimed. But, he kept going.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I think the French didn't ultimately like him. He abandoned them,
For America.
Yeah. I mean, he ends up married to Candace Bergen, and, he just had a life here, so I don't think they revere him the way they do the others in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Right over here.
One of the things I thought was interesting is at the time having the recognition that it did, as far as some Oscar nominations and whatnot, the mixture of tones within this film for a drama, comedy. I guess I don't even know how to title as to what it is through and through. But when I think of films maybe of the past 5-6 years that if you watch it, it tends to fall into a specific category. At least I walk out of the theater thinking, oh, that was a dramatic picture. That was a... Whereas with this one, it seems to be shifting gears all over the place. You never know where he's going to be.
Yeah, what is it? Like before, I said, yeah, let's talk about that after. What genre is it? It's just not easily identifiable. Maybe that hurts the word of mouth, too, when you say, hey, you got to see this film Atlantic City. Oh, what is it? It's like, well, it's just kind of great. You know, you need to see it. It's just wonderful. You should just see it. It's like, but is it a... It's like, yeah, there's a coke deal, kind of. Some guy gets killed, and then he kills a couple guys later. I don't know. You know, it's just hard to...
One of the most surprising things about it is that it was, you know, it was at least a critical success. I'm sure it was a hit on the coast, you know, and it was nominated for 5 Oscars.
It's in that Melvin and Howard. It's kind of an East Coast Melvin and Howard in a certain way, in that back then you could have a critically acclaimed film and it would get that, you know, the Academy would take notice and they would give Oscar noms to people. Now, if it doesn't make much money, you do not get any of that.
Yeah. So, but I do think it was. I mean, it played in my little town, so it must have been like a pretty decently sized hit.
Yeah.
That it played around that much. I wonder if we have any other contributions from the audience. Right over here, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on, you know, the whole genre mix. I think it just speaks to how brilliant he was, you know, because he could make it so funny. And I mean, I think it was very similar to Elevator to the Gallows. I mean, that movie's hilarious. It has so many funny moments. When you think back, you think it's like, you know, there's these tense moments as well, but it's really funny. And I think, like, I mean, you're watching it and there's all these like masterful shots, you know, like the scenes where the gangsters pulled the car up. And it's like from above, and it's just beautiful. The storefront behind them. I kind of feel like he just made it funny because he could, you know, like let's just make an awesome movie that's beautiful and interesting and weird and funny.
Great combination of talents. This is John Guar's his only screenplay, I think. You know, great playwright. You know, he's in. But maybe they started collaborating. I don't know what the genesis of.
Yeah, I wondered like some of those lines, if that was like screenplay or what. Like when she said, "You're like King Midas in reverse." Yeah. Like that's such a great line, and it's such like an overarching statement.
And yet none of it feels like anyone's too written. Like a lot of those could come off overwritten if you say, "Oh, here's a great line." But the way the film just kind of, it doesn't stop and have long monologues or any. It just kind of it doesn't hang around any longer. You know, it just goes through the story, and it's not saying like, "Oh, look how well written this is. Look how," you know, it's just very natural.
Works for the same reason because it just like it's very real. It doesn't dwell on it like, "Oh, look, this is funny." You know, it just kind of moves along.
Yeah, no, it's a tonal triumph in that way, I think.
He's like one of the old masters did that too. Like most John Ford movies are really funny.
Yeah.
Most Howard Hawks movies are just really, no matter what they are, they'll have something that's just really funny about them. Is they're always sort of working that in.
Yeah, like why not? You know, you have a scene. Let's have an opportunity for some humor here. So whether it's a look on Grace's face or some, you know, just something. There's just always, you know, the dog,
Or the radio that she puts in her purse. I mean, that was so creative and awesome, you know. And it's like there's the sound she carries with her running down the street. I mean, that was just such an awesome, weird, cool moment.
And just going all the way with it, the interview on the TV with the police chief. And, you know, like, that's a brilliant little bit. They're going to have to answer to me, you know, if they're going to, you know, like. And what the reporter says, there's a funny line in there. It's just like live TV. I mean, it's kind of great.
There's no mob killings in Atlantic City.
No. They can kill each other somewhere else. But yeah, and just all the construction. My God, every shot.
And demolition.
Yeah, I know. It was like, are they tearing it down or building it? Are they making it worse?
Yeah,
you know?
It's like both at the same time. I don't know, but that was... But yeah, beautifully, you know, decrepit. You see the old buildings maybe on the way down, or they're repairing things kind of, but you never see anything nice going up.
Right.
Anybody been to Atlantic City?
I'm sorry to make another comment, but just building off of that, I think, you know, I mean, this is kind of stating the obvious, but like at the end, like when he's so excited about actually killing people, it's like he felt like his time had passed, you know? And then he's rolling in dough. He actually got to kill some people, you know? So
Monsters,
it's
you're
the
not a
end
true
of-
monster.
Right.
He
like,
lies about it earlier every now and then. Yeah, that kind of. Snuff out somebody.
Around him, you know, just saying like, oh, it's so clean. I hate casinos. I don't even want to be around it. But yet he managed, you know, like on the tail end, just to actually make it, you know, in the way that he always lied about.
It's beautiful getting to live his own little dream in his own little, you know, to be the man he wanted to be. I think my favorite line has to be, what is it about the Atlantic Ocean? Like, that used to be.
You should have seen the
You
Atlantic
should have
Ocean
seen
those
that.
days.
It's like,
Atlantic Ocean was beautiful then.
Yeah.
That sums up so much of the movie. Just that little exchange is so perfect.
You know what he means, but
Yeah.
it's kind of beautiful.
Well,
Anyway, awesome.
let's have one more contribution. Then I want to talk about the movie not next week because we're not doing a movie next week. Just a reminder, we're doing a movie the week after.
A week
But we'll
off.
talk a little bit about that one. Right back here, though.
Did anybody ever see the husband character in any other movies, or was everybody just glad he was dead?
Amityville 3. Amityville 3D. What are you kidding?
He's very good. That kind of jittery, you know, he's probably not a bad guy, but he's sure.
You just know that type.
And the, you know, yeah, he's
The type of guy that shows up at
Slippery.
your house at 3 a.m. and, you know, wants to sleep on the couch.
well, he did impregnate her sister,
Yeah.
his wife's sister. So whatever.
He's
Layer
he's
of
a
complexity there.
he's a classic sort of loser archetype
Yeah.
who loses.
And he's dumb too to say, I found it in a phone booth.
Yeah.
That was really stupid because you just told that guy, whatever. It's like, they do weed themselves out, I guess, in the crime world.
It was his karma, I think.
Yeah, that was too bad.
So
I like that scene when he flushes like here's a number, but he flushes it in the toilet. That's just a nice pimp touch, isn't it? You know, like kind of.
Great line. You look like a fire sale.
Yeah.
That's a little shocking with him just holding the knife in him.
Holy crap, that's a haunting murder hit, you know, assassination, whatever you want to call that, just the way he has him. And then he does like, you know, the old Harry Carey's like, okay, we're going to cut up. Like, oh, shit.
yeah,
No more of that. You know, they had just enough to know, okay, we're not going to be surprised when he's dead on a gurney next scene. But he cuts out before it gets too, you know, too graphic. But it was...
You're not. Yeah,
It's tough.
it's yet another thing where you're not sure where the tone's going, and that's
Yeah.
that's kind of a stinger, kind of a shocker.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks we're showing Out of the Blue.
Out of the Blue. Dennis Hopper. I think another Canadian production.
Yep.
Right? That
Yeah,
was
it's one that he wasn't even the director on at the
Initially.
beginning. Yeah, he came in. He was an actor on it and
Mhm.
got hired to direct.
Yeah, it's like, I've directed a few movies. And he jumps in and makes a Dennis Hopper movie out of it.
It's a miracle
So-
that he got a chance to direct again, kind of, because
Yeah.
by all rights he had given up the right ever to
Yeah.
have a budget and direct a movie.
From the last movie. Yeah, what an up and down director career, but good thing he gets to make a few more good movies, you know, after that. So
Out of the Blue is really good,
Yeah.
and the story that you told me when we first talked about Out of the Blue, well, I don't even want to allude to it.
Okay.
But if you don't even want to show up for Out of the Blue, just
I
show
have-
up and hear the story.
I have two great Dennis Hopper stories in different 30-year span.
All right, I don't know if I
30
heard the
years
other
in
one.
between them.
All right, so I definitely
I'll
heard the one.
save
of
them for 2 weeks from now.
All right, so the movie is incredible. It's brilliant. It's a brand new print that the
Yeah, that's special.
producer made, and then he's not great at remembering what date we booked the film, but he's a great producer of films, and he produced this film. So we will see you in 2 weeks for the very last one of the Jewels in the Wasteland 1980 through 1983 series. Rick, thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys for being here. What a great evening. So, thank you.